Welcome my friends, welcome back to Project TAS. If you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you've watched any of my previous videos, thank you for returning to my channel. Today we're doing another Blake 7 episode review from Season 4. As always, I will point out that this review will inevitably touch upon certain plot elements of this episode, and may even reveal developments for the series of Blake 7 as a whole. So if you haven't seen this episode, or anything else in terms of Blake 7, a huge spoiler alert is in order in case you wish to do a bit of Blake 7 catch-up prior to watching this review. You have been warned. Right, let's get to it, shall we? With James Follett's debut offering for Blake 7, Dawn of the Gods, I almost gave him the benefit of the doubt and almost gave him a weak star for its strong beginning in spite of jumping off the edge of the cliff about halfway through. Here he receives no such acquittal, even though he tries to hide his true identity by changing his first name to Jim. Let's hit the nail on the head, shall we? Stardrive, for me, quite simply, is one of the worst episodes to come out of the Blake 7 universe. Yes, I have cited Voice from the Past from Season 2 as my personal choice for worst of the lot of all Blake 7, and I stand by that assessment. Maybe I'm getting crabby because there haven't been much in the way of praiseworthy episodes to write about of late. The last 8 episode reviews have amassed a grand total of 7 stars from me, including the 3 stars I gave to Terminal. So there hasn't been that much allocation in the way of praise for the last few episodes, and there won't be many more being allocated for a while either, just to give you a heads up. Well, that's Season 4 for you. Some B7 fans might say Stardrive is particularly guilty of the bad name that Season 4 bears, and yet for me, this isn't even the worst episode of Season 4. Let's put it like this. If you bought the VHS tape that had this episode and its follow-up on it, you were getting the rawest of raw deals. And I did buy it. For now though, I will try to contain my grumblings to the awfulness that is Stardrive, and will worry about its awful follow-up next time. We're still treading around this concept of Avon being stupid or insane or both. He's decided to try and hide Scorpio next to this 2 billion ton asteroid as a means of sneaking past Federation patrols to get yet more technology fueling crystals to keep Scorpio running. The asteroid is of a rather irregular shape and has a spin that makes parking next to it a rather hazardous enterprise. You could suggest parking under it as to avoid the more perilous aspects of its spin, but this wasn't suggested as an option, so evidently wasn't one to consider. I wonder though. Now, if this had been Blake making such a dangerous suggestion, Avon would have been the first to object. Here it is Avon making the call, and everyone is objecting. And they are right to do so. Again, I'm not too bothered about this slightly unhinged Avon, but I completely understand those who find it irritating and completely against the grain of Avon's character as previously established. As I said before, I wouldn't rate an episode down because of it, but maybe that's one of the main reasons for Season 4's poor reputation, the change in Avon. His suggestion results in Scorpio colliding with the asteroid, causing a huge amount of damage. The good news is that the asteroid doesn't stop to exchange insurance details, so they don't have to cough up to cover the damage to its surface. The bad news is that the damage to Scorpio is so catastrophic they can't actually get back to Xenon base. Villa plays drunk in order to suggest a risky repair idea but not be required to carry it out. The idea works, sufficient repairs are made, and Scorpio can now get home. Before they start on their journey, they witness 3 Federation pursuit ships seemingly blow up by themselves. Once back at Xenon, they find that the ships were attacked by a space rat-driven space chopper, which demonstrates such an impressive speed, Avon's next harebrained scheme is to obtain one of their star drives, hence the name of the episode. In spite of the un-Avon-like idea that probably was a bit too stupid to have Avon suggest, this first act is the most entertaining part of the episode. It's fast-paced, explosive, amusing if betraying the character traits somewhat, and even though the words space rat don't really make us tremble in our boots, at least it's a different baddie than Servalan and the Federation. Just like Dawn of the Gods, we're not led to believe that Mr. Follett has necessarily served up a stinker of an episode. The opening of the episode is entertaining and sets up a promising second act. Unfortunately, just like Dawn of the Gods, the direction of the plot that Mr. Follett takes us is probably the worst place he can take us, and here with Stardrive he takes us there even quicker. Aurak deduces who the creator of the Stardrive must be, the renowned Dr. Plaxton, and also states where the space rats dwell, on the planet Casper, which presumably is where Dr. Plaxton is as well, modifying their space choppers with her Stardrive. Our crew go to the planet Casper and spend about half an unentertaining hour rescuing Dr. Plaxton, then spend the remainder of the episode having her hook up her swanky Stardrive to the less swanky Scorpio, and then, as a way of saying thank you, Avon leaves the mains activated as she's finishing off the last connections, so the Scorpio can evade the pursuit ships and not have to pay Dr. Plaxton for parts or her labour costs. If the Space Rats had been more interesting a baddie, rather than a ragtag group of immature punk rockers, and if Dr. Plaxton had been a more engaging prisoner than the bleary-eyed performance we get from Barbara Shelley, then maybe this episode would have just been awful instead of tediously dire. Unfortunately, the Space Rats are a wretched nemesis, and despite the acting credentials of the great Barbara Shelley, you get the impression she knew she was making dreck here. The final scream from the woman once known as the Scream Queen also doesn't invoke much in the way of emotion or even pain. You're left with the impression she wants to go back to bed. And as for the Space Rats, well, as Villa puts it, if it flies, they steal it, and if it moves, they zap it. Yes, they're seemingly dangerous, but there's no direction for them. All baddies, as well as goodies, need some sort of focus, ambition and direction in order to give them some depth. What we get is some sulky teenagers in the most stupidest costumes and hairpieces in the history of the universe. Even some half-assed comment about Altard not being a space rat doesn't stir up any real interest. He's still violent, he's still sexually assaulting and pulling guns on Dr. Plaxton. What's the difference between him and the Space Rats? And what's with his accent? Where's he from? And is it meant to be relevant to the plot or the character's background? And before anyone says it, no, that is not the actor's regular accent. Damien Thomas is Egyptian born, but he was raised in the UK and has a very distinctive and, dare I say, very nice sounding British accent. So he is putting it on here for the character of Altard. But again, why? Also, where did that assistant of Dr. Plaxton's go? He was cowering around the lab, offering less presence than the white walls he was almost blending in with, and by the time Avon and co arrived, he seems to have disappeared. Let's face it, the plot reads, Scorpio needs a new drive, Avon et al. Go and get one. The baddie didn't have to be anything special, just an obstacle to help the plot reach the 50 minutes mark. And unfortunately, that's just the kind of baddie we get. Avon has declared that Dana and Villa are expendable and can be used as diversions, which says much for the downturn in Dana's character. We can guess that Villa will never be regarded as anything other than useless, in spite of his unique ability to open locks and doors, but even Villa's usual clumsiness and ability to get into trouble feels hammy. Michael Keating shaking his head when trying to act like he's stuck at the top of that rock looks pathetic, and why he ends up there I don't know. And I love it when he tries to drop his gun and make it look like an accident, and the bloody thing won't actually fall down. Not that it actually makes any difference, the Space Rats don't hear it, so maybe it wouldn't have been wiser to leave this bit out of the episode. Talking of leaving things out, the producers decided to leave out the model shots of the pursuit ships and introduced us to these pink cardboard cutouts. I mean, I can tolerate the cartoony effects of Series 1, they actually retain a level of charm, but for some rosy-coloured negative being pulled along to pass as the approaching enemy is absolutely ridiculous. And it wouldn't get much better with red blobs at the end making up for the pursuit ships. And this wouldn't be the last we saw of either of these so-called special effects. How can the effects be getting worse? How could they get much worse? Also, on the subject of Villa being teleported up a cliff, are we still to believe that Scorpio's teleporter is still having teething problems? We're 4 episodes in now. What's Aurak been doing all this time? There's also more padding in this episode than you'd find in a dog trainer's bodysuit. Scorpio's landing and docking in Zen and Base first seen in Rescue is used in its entirety. We've got what feels like half an episode's worth of Avon, Tarrant and Sulin running around a quarry before Tarrant mercifully says,
"There's another one,"
restarting what little plot was already limping along. We also have this inexplicable look from Dr. Plaxton at the approaching pursuit ships. Avon is impatiently counting her down to when they'll be in range of the Federation weapons, and she decides to take an extended look in the ship's direction, mustering an expression on her face that makes it look like she's just caught her assistant naked in the shower. Also, why can she see out the back at all? I assume there must be a window there. Or is Slave still using that force wall trick? To say there's a lack of polish to this episode is the greatest of understatements, and this episode needed polishing for all it's worth. Well, given the episode's worth, maybe it actually got said polish and we never noticed. There are no twists or turns in the plot. It's perhaps the most bog-standard plot without any trimmings. It's pretty much a straight line. How prior episodes like Star One, Redemption, Rumours of Death, and some of the stories coming up, which are really good, could have been created, and yet the makers also spawned something so tedious, so mundane, poorly edited, poorly acted, and painfully irritating as Stardrive. The phrase "does not compute" comes to mind. The Scorpio can now outrun Federation ships. Enough said. You'll regret finding out how they did it. That concludes my review on Stardrive. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like this video, please share this video, please subscribe to my channel, and please check out my other Blake 7 episode reviews. And now we come to the part of my video where I will now discuss the good parts of Stardrive. There, that's done.